Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am really excited to bring Matt Paradise. And let me tell you a little bit about Matt. Matt is an award-winning author, financial educator, and keynote speaker who helps people transform financial stress into confidence and lasting well-being. He combines real-world experience overcoming homelessness, addiction, and cancer with practical tools that build whole health wealth. His mission is to help you take control of your money and create a life you love. Today, we're going to talk about money, mindset, and mental health. Why budgeting isn't enough. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Matt Paradise. Matt, such a good topic. We're halfway through the year now. People are needing to get going on their businesses and figure out what they did wrong the first 6 months and fix it in the next. So there's still time, and this is a perfect time for us to have this conversation. But before we get into really the heart of everything, I ask two simple questions. The first is just tell everybody, what part of the country do you live in? Where do you call home?
Thanks. And first, I'd like to say thank you, Vicki, for having me on. It really is a pleasure. And thank you for addressing big, weighty topics. Mental health is critically important, and I'm excited for our conversation today. I'm
Absolutely.
in New
England.
Just west of Boston. So in the Metro West area of Boston.
Yeah. So you have a few months of sunshine and beautiful weather before snow attacks you again.
A little bit, yeah. But I've learned just to be grateful for weather either way, no matter what comes.
Yeah.
I enjoy multiple seasons. And
yeah, for sure.
I mean, my heart goes out as we're recording this. My heart goes out to those in Texas affected by the flooding. Mm-hmm. Weather is just so unpredictable. So
it is.
Yeah. I'm grateful for life, to feel the sunshine and in Boston and beyond.
Yeah. Boston's a great city too.
It is. I love it. It's a small walkable city. It has that small town feel, but international stage. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I ask always the guests to share a little bit about their journey and those pivotal moments that you had to change, you had to transform. And in doing so, that informed who you are today and what you do and why you do it. So please tell a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, thanks. My journey is one of transforming trauma into purpose. I grew up in Connecticut, so still New England, still the Northeast. And my parents moved us to a rural area in Connecticut, the Northeast. It's known as the Quiet Corner. A lot of farms, beautiful country. I didn't appreciate it as a kid, though I always loved learning and speaking and teaching. And one of the first times I remember being on a stage to read Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, I was in the first grade. And I still remember the nerves and the tears of the emotion and bringing that to people. I love learning, as I mentioned, though traditional education didn't necessarily vibe with me and my character. I was a rebellious kind of kid and enjoyed challenging teachers. And to all the educators who might be listening, I'm sorry on behalf of my teachers and all those who have students like I was. I know that it's not easy. So thank you, true heroes in that profession of teaching and education. In high school, I didn't necessarily know what the future might bring. It was bleak. I went through deep, dark depression, and I didn't want to sit and feel that discomfort and pain. And ultimately, that led to, and multiple other circumstances led to alcohol and drugs. And I, so alcoholism and addiction mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For me, in my sophomore year, I was drinking pretty much every day. I would drink before school, heavy alcohol, and a lot of other drugs. My parents, who had two younger children, my younger siblings, gave an ultimatum: either clean up or get out. And went to AA, NA. I know not every listeners can relate to drugs and alcohol use. Maybe you've seen it in your family. Certainly it's prevalent across the country. But even consider just character changes, growth. There's a lot of different process addictions, whether it's being addicted to shopping. There's Gamblers Anonymous, Spenders Anonymous, Debtors Anonymous. And one common denominator with character change is that we need to want the change ourselves. And as a teen, I didn't want to change. I kind of loved, drugs were like my best friend. And misery loves company. I spent a lot of time with other people who also claimed drugs as their best friend. I overdosed in my sophomore year. Actually, the school nurse who called 911 and was rushed by ambulance to the local hospital. And really, by grace alone, I survived that event. So that being said, hope is critically important for everybody at every stage and age of life. It's just as important to me now as it was when I was a sophomore in high school. It looks different and feels different. And my maturity and growth since then also is different because I've built some resilience through other hard times. And I know those listening have also endured all kinds of challenges. There's always hope. When I lacked hope, I didn't make the best decisions for my current self, because there's always a battle in life with our current selves and our future selves. And for me, I didn't envision my future self surviving and living to see 20 years old. So my present self was ultimately neglected, a series of poor choices. So I didn't clean up and follow through with that particular ultimatum that my parents had hoped for. I left and became a homeless teenager. I was about 15 years old and slept sometimes outside. I found floors of friends' houses or their parents' houses. Shout out to Shannon, but she had a tree house that I stayed in for a few days until her dad noticed and kicked me out. It was intense several years. And every day was just a matter of survival. Could I get food? I didn't know always where my next meal was coming from. Being in a rural area, it wasn't easy to just go around the corner. Even if there was money, it wasn't easy just to get food. But I also didn't always have money. I would, whenever I could, buy more drugs and try to sell drugs to support my lifestyle and addictions, and was just a vicious cycle. So that being said, I left that area. So as I mentioned at the beginning with your question, the story of transforming trauma into purpose. At that time as a teen, I still didn't see purpose. It was all about me, myself, and I. Those were the only three people ultimately that I really cared about. But I also knew at the same time that what I was doing, not only was it killing me and my relationships, it also was just morally wrong. I felt it deep within, that it innately wrong, destroying other people's lives and having a hand in that by perpetuating this. I've always been somewhat of a leader, and sometimes a follower, as we all are. But I knew that there were others who emulated the life that I was living. And I knew that that was adding to their destruction as well. Moved from Connecticut to Massachusetts, and through a friend of a friend, tried to get away from the life that I was living. And again, not everybody can relate to teen homelessness. And I hope that nobody ever has to face homelessness in the future, though millions do on a daily basis across the country in the United States, never mind the world. And it is, I think, just to throw out a stereotype of what a homeless person looks like. I've done a lot of work in homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters, and there are so many women in shelters, highly educated, college degrees, and through a series of unfortunate events, ended up in a shelter and needing that temporary assistance. So there's no shame by any stretch in spending time in shelter or just needing help. So as a teen, I knew enough that I needed to change, but I didn't know how to change. I didn't know what that looked like. Moved to Massachusetts. I was still me. My baggage came with me. There was still some more internal work that needed to be done. By grace, somebody that was a mentor about 10 years or so older than me really reached out. I was a musician, still am, play percussion, and really love music. He envisioned a better future and helped encourage me to change. At first, I was like, no, thanks, I'm good. This is my life. I'm living it. But then that's a good Boston term. If anybody's, I'm good. I'm all set. Thanks, though. And just sort of was waiting around in my misery, still unclear of what future might be possible. At this time, I was about 18. And he encouraged me to come out eventually to a Bible discussion and a Bible-based drug recovery group. And that was a huge pivotal point in my life because it set me on course to be sober. And that was the last time that I used was in August of 1999. So over 25 years ago. Awesome. And shout out to Eric Jones. Was a mentor in my mind, an angel, because it really is just by grace that I survived and made it through ultimately, physically, but certainly spiritually, emotionally as well. So that was a pivotal point to where I then needed to figure out life and living a clean, sober life. It was foreign to me. It was almost like learning to walk again. I remember going to a party and people were drinking red Solo cups. And I was like, what? You mean you're drinking soda or juice or water? It just wasn't even like a comprehension in my mind. It was like, why would you do that? I didn't understand it. And literally, I remember a party early on in my recovery where I needed to just get up and leave and walk out and get air because it just felt suffocating in such an unusual foreign circumstance that I just wasn't prepared for. And that's the mindset shift. We can stop using or stop whatever the negative behavior is. And in some circles, whether it's addiction, whether it's shopping, whether it's any other unhealthy habit of thinking white knuckling. There's research, if you've ever heard, don't think of the big red barn. Do not think of the big red barn. And all listeners, probably all you can picture now is a big red barn. When we want character change, that doesn't work. Just trying not to do that thing. The mindset shift is ultimately working towards something and growing in something in particular and not just avoiding something else. So it really is a combination. Both the intrinsic and the extrinsic, both motivation as well as determination and mindset. The extrinsic are, I don't hang around in bars anymore. I know that's not good for me, and it's too much of a temptation. But also, as we learn to grow, surrounding ourselves with mentors, with people who might be a few steps ahead of us, even in our business, makes all the difference in the world, because then it's not just walking through the dark, hoping for the best. Hope is critically important, but people bring hope, and we need each other. We need each other in our businesses. We need each other in life so that we can really continue to grow in ways that we don't necessarily see in and of ourselves, but collectively there's a greater vision for both our lives as well as others. So I applied for a job at a place called American Consumer Credit Counseling. And they gave a chance on at that time, 19-year-old kid in October 1999. And I didn't have any identification because I had spent my time homeless and avoiding
Yeah.
government and all of that. And I didn't have a high school diploma or
Yeah.
anything else. I mean, it really
Right.
was taking a chance on a kid. And my first paycheck, shout out Donna Conley, she walked me down to the bank and said, "This is Matt. You can trust him and you can cash his check." And without that, I wouldn't have been able to even cash my check. It took time to get all the documentation and eventually obtain my GED, some college, and became certified as a financial educator, credit counselor, identity theft, risk assessment analyst, and multiple other certifications that increased my ability to help others. And this, again, more pivotal points, but people who believed in me, who gave a chance and opportunity. We need opportunity. And as leaders, we need to
Yes.
provide opportunity to others because sometimes we just don't know. It might not be the most credentialed person who brings the value to our organization. Obviously, we need reliability and trust in the things that are critical in life and business. However, providing opportunities are really important, and trust can be built over time, and it generally is. But access and opportunity is huge in building wealth and well-being. So that includes, I
So
mean, well-being. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll go
I
off on
just was
another
going to
tangent.
say, I was just going to say, so let's talk about the whole health wealth and how it's different from traditional financial advice.
Yeah, so whole health wealth is a subtitle of my book. So financially capable, a friendly guide for building whole health wealth. And whole health wealth is the well-researched and documented data-supported idea and concept that all domains of well-being are inseparable. They're connected, support each other, and when one is lacking, others suffer. So if you think about domains of well-being, they include things like mental health
Mm.
and well-being. They include physical health and well-being. And certainly when our physical health suffers, it affects our mental health. And I think there's a clear understanding of that for many. And similarly, the inverse with those two is also true. Our environment, when we think about, and I've helped others with things like hoarding. And when you think about an environment that's not healthy, it's not, may not be physically safe, but also may not be emotionally safe. I mentioned working in domestic violence shelters. Safety is of utmost importance.
Mm,
And sometimes a
absolutely.
home in our environment may not be safe. And certainly that affects our environmental well-being, affects our physical well-being, our emotional well-being. And
Amen.
spiritual domain is another
Mm,
area of
yeah.
well-being too. So financial well-being certainly is also well-being. And
Mm,
they're all interconnected because when I wrote the book, I separated into three sections. So to be financially capable, we need to learn to operate within our environment. So in business, if we have an LLC, we have to learn how to file the paperwork, or if it's an LLP or whatever the structure is of our business, we have to adhere to the specific regulations. There are taxes to be paid and all of the above, right? So we individually don't have control over that. And I know our environment currently in the United States is tumultuous. And I'm not getting into a political conversation, but more so pointing out the reality of our situation. When it comes to things, even like banking and regulatory agencies, things change. As soon as we know some of it, it changes, sometimes
mm.
dramatically, sometimes in small
That's
shifts.
true.
So learning to recognize, understand, and know those things really is important. I wrote a chapter on systemic racism and how prejudice ultimately makes all of us poor. If
Mm,
someone ultimately and it's a systemic thing. So there's a variety, we don't have time to get into all of that, but it's critically important. It's part of the world in which we live. And it may not affect us one day individually, but down the road, it certainly will. It's certainly, whether it's prejudice or other things, affects the economy at large too. And
absolutely.
when the economy is affected, our business and our lives are also affected. And I know many are feeling that now, whether it's inflation or many of those different macroeconomic factors, that, again, we don't have control over individually, but certainly affect us. The middle section of the book is organized into behavioral psychology. So that gets into everything from our first money memories, that gets into addictions. And again, not every listener can relate to a drug addiction, but other process addictions. There's a well-known psychologist that actually said at some point, 100% of the population is addicted to something. And it doesn't have to be drugs. It doesn't have to be alcohol. There's everything from unhealthy relationships to food to spending or shopping. And retail therapy is something that sometimes is used in even just joking about it, thinking about it. And for some, it's okay. Just like with alcohol, I have friends that can go and they have a beer socially or a drink and cocktail on the beach and they're fine. And others know that they can't and don't go down that avenue. So similarly, whether it's food or whether it's retail therapy, there's some who can go shopping, enjoy it, and not have it affect their financial well-being. Chemically within the brain, there's a similar process going on. There's a big dopamine hit. There's a chemical reaction that's actually happening, seeking that particular behavior. It feels exciting. It feels fulfilling. It feels great for a time. And for so many, and again, I spent over 20 years in credit counseling. Many people called because of credit card debt, and it creeps up, and those high interest rates become crippling. The most credit card debt that I counseled somebody through was $500,000 in credit card debt, but six figures was common. And the 500,000 and many of the large numbers are as a result of business owners really just trying to make payroll or buy inventory, hoping that better times will come around the corner. And with credit card debt, as that balance mounts, it feels insurmountable to get out of the debt. Now, that particular person was able to, they still had a healthy salary and income that they had personally, and the business was able to be profitable. We just had to address that really high interest because all of the payments were going towards the interest and not the principal balance. So an important part in our mindset within the middle section of the book, Financially Capable, really addresses our core beliefs and systems of value, our first money memories, how we've been exposed to money in different ways affects the decisions that we make now. So even with investing, there's a direct correlation to risk and reward. If we want a bigger reward in business, similarly, if we sit on the sidelines and watch everybody else make their business moves and we ourselves don't step into the arena and take our chance, well, then we sometimes become frustrated. When it comes to managing our money, whether it's our business dollars or our business dollars, when our money management and day-to-day living with our money and decisions made are separate or dissonant to our core values and systems of belief, then we're unfulfilled, dissatisfied, sometimes outright frustrated, angry, maybe even depressed. And I've seen that time and time again with so many. And I know for myself in my own living and through transformation that it's significant. It's huge that having our values, one, clearly defined. It really is to know what's important to us and why I believe that personal, and there's a whole acronym in the book, what personal stands for to me, but it's important to keep personal and personal finances. And as we have our business and when we have our own mission statements for our business and value statements for the business, we spend time to think about that. We don't always spend as much time with our personal lives to think about what's really important to me. What is my core set of beliefs and value system for the family and the household? And that's really important because that drives us, that affects the decisions that we make day to day. Because the shift, and I call in the book, the budgeting chapter, the dirty B word. We don't always want to talk about it. For some, even raising the title budget in name gets a visceral reaction. Some might get shivers down their spine. Some might turn away. Some might feel disgusted. Some might feel anxious. And anxiety is huge when it comes to dealing with money. I mean, in the US, here's a business statistic and why personal finance is a matter of leadership as well in our businesses, not just our personal lives. But in the US, it's estimated about $47 billion every week is lost in productivity as a result of employee financial stress.
Mm.
So
Wow.
if you're a leader in business, or you have employees or even contractors for that matter, helping you in the business, there's a good chance that if there's more than zero, somebody at some particular time is feeling some financial stress. It's all around us. We look
Yeah.
at just the price of eggs. I mean, that alone I could say, and all of a sudden people are like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to go there because
Mm.
it's anxiety inducing. So the
Mm.
shift is to not necessarily change the price of eggs or the cost of our inventory because we don't have full control over that. Though there are some different tweaks where we can look at different price adjustment, cost adjustments, and things to improve there. But even with the same price and cost of goods, we can still have a mindset shift to operate differently within our system of values and beliefs. And I really truly believe that that is critically important. And I say that as someone who has had very, very little and has been successful in different areas of life and business. It's really important to take a step back sometimes when we feel that anxiety rising, to really take a sober view and assess our life and business. And
Mm.
sometimes it takes taking a moment to even do box breathing. If anybody's familiar with deep
Yeah,
breathing techniques,
absolutely. I
so
teach that
important.
for speaking.
Do you mind saying what that is, even for listeners if they haven't heard it?
Oh, for me, and hopefully I've got it the way you do, but I do breath in, four holds, breath
Mhm.
out, four holds, breath in, four holds, breath out, four holds. And it just actually just for me, it just like settles every aspect of you down by
Mhm.
taking those deep breaths and holding them for the count of four. It just
So
settles you
powerful.
down that you can just go into what you're doing. So before going on stage or starting anything, and if you start to, in an interview, start to feel that heart racing and things, that's a time where I always say just take a breath, but it's really take four.
Yeah. And it's powerful. The military
Mm.
teaches it. It's something that resets our parasympathetic system. And
Yeah.
literally within our bodies, we have just an emotional reset. And it's important and powerful because I don't know if anybody else can relate, but when I start to get anxious and have all the emotions rise and I can feel the temperature go up, I
Mm-hmm.
don't always make the best decisions in those moments, whether it's as a dad, and I mentioned that because that comes out certainly, or in life and business. Taking that moment, that time to breathe slowly and reset our parasympathetic system so that we can think from a rational, sober, clear minded position
Yeah.
makes a huge difference and worth the extra few minutes that it takes because otherwise the consequences can be significant and they can be
Yeah.
significant in the positive sense or the negative sense. I know when I make irrational choices based in irrational thought and emotion, they're generally not the best choices. And
Mm.
that really is something that's important. So for me, living the transformation from that homeless teen to living a life of purpose for me really is all about the best of what I have to help others. And my career's been around personal finance, financial education, and I know that financial stress is huge. It's huge for the economy. It's huge for the household and the individuals in our homes. It's huge for me. And I know that
Yeah.
I need to continually have, it's not a one time thing that now I have this knowledge. That's the third section of my book, the knowledge, just the basic, what I call the nuts and bolts. That's important. But if I'm out of control emotionally, then all the knowledge in the world isn't going to save me from me and my
Yeah. Yeah.
irrational choices.
Time is flying by, but I did want to talk about can people start healing that relationship they have with money, especially, and my mom didn't work. My dad had 3 jobs. I mean, we had $100 to feed 6 people at the store every week.
Mm,
And so that trauma stays with you and
sure.
impacts you. So how do we start healing the trauma or the shame of our relationship with money?
It's different for each person, and the importance of keeping it personal. So, one step for us personally is to assess where we are. Do we want to change? Is a question, really just a deep rooted question to ask of ourselves. Do I really, really want to change? And am I prepared to go through the steps
Mm,
that might be uncomfortable to do that work in getting through it? And the trauma can not just financial. There's lots of different traumas that people go through. My wife and I adopted a child through DCF, and
mm,
it's an area just near and dear to my heart. And PTSD and multi-generational traumas are huge. At the same time, as we've gone through the journey, researching neuroplasticity is also equally as significant. We have the
mm,
ability to change. Our bodies have the ability to change. And whether it's our brains, whether it's our blood pressure, that stress, anxiety, trauma affects us physically, whether it's the blood pressure and cholesterol and the toll that it takes on our bodies. And
mm,
oftentimes we can carry that and not even think about it because bills have to be paid, kids need to be
mm,
raised, there's demands of everyday life.
absolutely.
And it's hard sometimes to take that step to think, do I really want to change? And
Mm,
am I ready to go through those
mm.
steps? The second part is, if the answer is yes, is know that it's not a journey that needs to be traveled alone.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm there's so many that say self-proclaimed gurus, self-made. I really hate that term because nobody is self-made. I mean, literally in biology, there's no single person on the face of the earth that was self-made. So even if we discuss it on sheer face of biology, but as far as even success in life or parenting or business, I know I need people. I need accountability. I need positive leadership through mentorship. Those people in my life have played such pivotal key roles to get me to where I am today. And for me to continue to grow, I continue to seek out those same and sometimes different mentors to ultimately get me to where I'd like to be and grow towards. When I want
Mm,
to help my son and being the best dad that I can possibly be, well, I ask other people near me that are fantastic parents, mothers and fathers, to say, what's the secret sauce? What are you doing? I see that success, and now your kid's 37 and they've been able to really be supported into adulthood. What did you do that you found made a huge difference? And the nuggets of wisdom along the way are invaluable. And whether we're working through trauma or stress, anxiety that maybe doesn't have the full weight of trauma, but still affects us significantly nonetheless, finding that positive mentorship. And I think also on the flip side, there's others that are listening that maybe haven't experienced trauma and haven't necessarily gone through some of the same adversity, being a positive mentor
mm,
and using that position to where you are now to lead in ways that maybe hadn't been a consideration in the past, but can radically change the people around you and fundamentally you and me as well. Because I know
mm.
that when I give the best of what I have to help others, I grow and I'm fulfilled as well. It's one of those paradoxical kind of things where the more I give, the more that I'm able to grow. And I think
That's
that
true.
that's critically important. So the peer
Mm,
support, structured accountability, and the different tools. So depending on where somebody is, sometimes it's professional help, and whether it's working through specific traumas in therapy, there's no shame whatsoever in doing that. And for some, they might embrace that thought and idea. For others, they might think, wow, there's a certain negative connotation that comes with that, or feeling of, I'm speaking for myself, feeling of inadequacy at different times where I've thought about whether or not I seek professional help. For me, one of the recent traumas that I went through was bile duct cancer. And fortunately, by grace, was able to receive a liver transplant. In surviving, there was a lot of emotions and need for control that I felt. And for many who've gone through different traumas, because life is just totally out of our hands, we feel the need to want to control whatever we think we can. And that control too often is a fallacy. If I think I can control my teenage son to achieve the outcome that I think he should be, forget about it. Any parents now are like, shit, they know, shaking their heads and like, yeah, he's a teenager.
That's right.
So getting that help is important. And for me, talking to a professional made all the difference, because it all of a sudden clicked. Wow, that's why sometimes I get angry and upset and feel that need for control. And working through those traumas, having the help, as I said, one of the tools in the arsenal, along with, as I mentioned, the structured accountability, the mentorship, the peer relationships that really help us to grow in ways that we might not necessarily in the moment be equipped to get to the next phase in transformation.
I think that's one of the reasons, my faith is so important to me, because I just put it up to God. Guide me and I will follow.
I love that there's a scripture that says, in our hearts, we plot our course, but God determines our footsteps. And I love that, because it helps it. One, it's not about me. My story of transformation into purpose, the story's not about me. It's a story that I can provide hope to other people. It's a story that can help maybe bring a spark to someone who might not be feeling like they see a vision for their future that's better than where it is now. And
or
ultimately,
they deserve it.
Or that they deserve it. Yeah, so much. All the emotions that can come with that. But ultimately, we can trust in God. For me, faith is huge, to know that God's got me. Romans says that God works for the good of those who love him. And I truly believe that. I don't know what that good might look like. There's blessings that I've received through cancer, and I don't recommend getting cancer. Don't do it. You can avoid it. It's not recommended. I've met some of the most incredible, lovely people as a result of cancer that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And through each stage and phase of our lives, there's people in our lives that are amazing, that we can help and be helped by.
I always say, when I meet people like you that have survived so many near-death opportunities, if you will, that there's another bigger purpose for you in life, and you should not waste any moment in fulfilling that purpose.
It's true. Yeah, that's something that my wife and I talk about a lot. Not wasting the pain, not wasting the challenges, because it's the message that somebody else needs.
Budgeting isn't enough. It's mindset. It's understanding your money relationship and taking care of your mental health. Thank you so much for being an awesome guest today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Vicki. It's been a pleasure.
As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.